Hello and welcome to this new edition of the Foojay Podcast. Let's visit Ireland in our next stop of the Foojay Java User Group Virtual World Tour.
Welcome to the Foojay Podcast, all your news about OpenJDK.
Once a month in this podcast, we talk about the history of a Java user group and the people behind it. Today we are traveling to Dublin to learn more about its Java community.
So I'm Barry Alistair. I am from Dublin and I run the Dublin Java User Group.
And I'm Frank. I'm making this podcast out of personal interest in the Java community and to learn from other organizers how they are organizing their JUG and inviting people and speakers. Can you give me some history about the Dublin JUG? I read that it's one of the oldest ones, correct?
Well, it's definitely established. I don't know whether I would say it was the oldest one. It's the oldest one in Ireland. That's 100% sure on that one. But we've been running the Dublin Java User Group since about 2007, I think it was. And it was very strange how it came to be. Was a couple of friends of mine, a guy called Lewin O'Carroll, who's sadly passed away, and a guy called Jake Corrup, who I believe is now, he's an Australian actually, he's an Aussie living in London these days, I believe. And they wanted to run a little conference over in Dublin. And at the time I was running a few conferences around Microsoft technologies. And they knew this and they came and asked me if I would help them out. So that's how I got involved with the Dublin Java User Group. And from the user group point of view, before the conference, what we were doing is we were literally like just meeting up in a pub. I think it was the Parliament Hotel on Parliament Street or somewhere, one of these things. And there was very little Java talk actually, a little bit, but, it was more of a community type of thing, just to sort of, press flesh and this type of thing. And so as I say, that would have been around about 2007. I suppose really how we've evolved over that time, Frank, is we got some funding with, I suppose just before we go into the funding thing, actually, what was actually happening was we were getting more and more people coming along to it. And they were turning into a little bit of drinking sessions, and which was it was fun. But the hardcore developers, the ones who really wanted to be there to talk about technology, were kind of sort of saying to themselves, it's actually not really that valuable to us anymore. It's just we don't really want to be spending our time coming down to the pub just to talk about football or whatever and having drinks and stuff like this. So what we decided to do was try and find a venue and try and pacify these guys who really just wanted to talk about technology and try and find a venue that was focused a little bit more about doing that. But we needed money to do that. So we went to AOL, as it was then, and a guy called Angus McLean gave us some money to basically, rent out a hotel room and buy some drinks and this thing. So that's how we really started to put down the foundation about a learning experience for people. And as I say, that would have probably been around about 2007 or 2008. I forget now. It's such a long time ago. I had less wrinkles then.
But it's a bit fun that a very important aspect of a JUG is the socializing, talking about anything. But indeed, it's remarkable that you say that people really wanted to talk about technology and what's happening in Java. It was not just let's have a drink. It's really let's have a community event and focus on the technology aspects.
Yeah, and a drink as well.
And a drink, but that's a second subject. What I find also remarkable is that you yourself are not a Java developer. You're doing this. Why?
Inheritance, I guess, really. It's because, as I say, Lewin sadly died. Jake went to London. And, I just kind of kept running with it. My background is actually in recruiting. I work for Computer Futures, part of the S3 group, and I was kind of recruiting Java developers, and I was recruiting Unix sysadmin people, C Unix people. This is going back to the kind of like the mid-90s. And at the stage when Jake and Lewin came along to me, I'd been out of the recruitment industry for quite some time, and that time. So, but I always had that kind of like that periphery interest in the technology. But I'm not a Java developer, and sometimes like when the likes of Gerrit was over here, and Simon and people like that, your colleagues. When they came over, they start chatting for 5 minutes, and then I'm lost, gone, and it's just the way it is. But I do love organizing these things. I love getting these really, really cool people to come to Dublin and talk about, the technology at the coalface, technology which can help people in their careers.
Yeah.
And companies that they work for help them, solve problems as well within their businesses.
I talked earlier with the organizer of the Utrecht JUG in the Netherlands, 2 of them. And also for them, they're not Java developers. They're doing it indeed to get to know people, find maybe new colleagues. So that's also part of your motivation to do this.
Not really, no. To be quite honest with you, I mean, it's, the people I meet, new faces all the time, nice people, and you do build up, friendships with them. But I wouldn't say that I actually spend a lot of time organizing these things for that particular reason.
Oh.
I just feel that, Dublin Java user group has been going a long time. It has a lot of credibility, and it offers a lot of value to the local developer community, and also to companies like yours, Asel Systems, to connect with people, with what you're doing as well. So it's really about that, rather than, there's no real ulterior motive behind it.
And I'm sure you anyhow learned something about Java in the meantime.
I suppose the most fun thing I've had at a Java event was what was it? Sorry, I have so many speakers in here. Sometimes I just can't remember their names. There was a guy over from, I think he was from Belgium, or maybe he was from Holland. His name will come back to me in a minute. And we ended up having a little trumpet session in the event at the beginning, because he was a French horn player, and I'm a trumpeter, so I managed to get I brought a trumpet in, and we did that for a little while. Not very well, either of us actually that night, but it was fun.
It's funny. I had a session when I was in Utrecht. Hanno was there, and he brought his guitar. So you also have these speakers who mix their hobby, just like I do with Raspberry Pi. People bring in their pet projects into their presentation, and then indeed you can end up with music. So that was your most remarkable session. Did you also had bad sessions? That something went wrong, or
I would say there's probably something, but most of the sessions are amazing, and I really can't pinpoint anything which was just dreadful.
Which is a good point.
I knew you were going to ask me that question, and I was going to use a joke. It's like, yeah, we had this guy called Gerrit Grunwald over recently. Dreadful, absolutely dreadful. But I can't say that with any honesty. He was great. He was great. It was great to have Gerrit. And I met Gerrit in DevOps in London back in May time. And I thought, oh, this is a guy that we definitely have to get over. And it was a great session.
Yeah.
I'm sure there probably is something which I'm kind of... Well, actually, now that you come to mention, it wasn't a bad session. I'm not going to mention names here either, by the way, because that would be like suicide, of course. But it was when I was organizing an event, and I was dealing with this person. I'm going to tread really carefully here, Frank, very carefully. And I found it to be very, very, very hard work dealing with this person, to the point where they threatened me that unless I changed one character on our website, which was their Twitter handle, they were going to pull out of the presentation. Honestly, it was just like, and if I told you, I will tell you off the record who it is, but not publicly. But when I tell you, you'd be like going like, wow, you know. As you may know, when we have people come over, spending their time to share their knowledge and everything like that, we like to send them away with something a little bit more than a T-shirt, you know. So we have a very, very unique piece of art done for them, and which is done by a local digital artist, street artist. Actually, he does a lot of murals in and around the city of Dublin, but he also very, very good in terms of digital art. And I told him about this situation, and the piece of art that he created was fabulous. It was like one of the the character who goes like, was he on James Bond or something? Do you know that one?
I think I know what you mean. Yeah.
Yes, and he did a thing. So I'm sure he probably took that piece of art away. It was like when I don't get that.
But yeah, as you have to think so hard to find a bad session, I think that's indeed a common factor for the Java community, that the people are so friendly. Now, since I'm doing this podcast and talking to people at conferences, everyone is so willing to share the knowledge and to talk about what they achieved or what they found as a problem and how they solved it. And I think that's one of the great things about these speakers.
Yeah, I think I'd agree with you, actually. And I mean, we've had people in from all over the world, and we don't do too much in terms of local people. I suppose really the reason for this is basically because, it costs people an awful lot of money to go to a conference. The nearest conference is DevOps. It means them taking time off work. It means them, paying for hotels, paying for flights. A DevOps is an amazing conference, and I always recommend to people, is like going, if you don't go to one conference, go to DevOps in London. It's the closest conference, and it's really, really good. But of course, when you start adding all those costs up, you could be looking at a couple of €1,000 for somebody to actually take that time out and go and do that. And by the time you've added flights and accommodation and the ticket and everything, so it's a lot of money for people to find. And if they can't do that, how can they learn? In that kind of a in-person environment. And so it's really about bringing the people who are actually talking at those conferences, bringing them to Dublin, so that the local community can connect in with them and actually learn from them. And that's kind of it. So we actually do very, very little in terms of local guys wanting to talk. And it was highlighted very recently, actually, when we had Venkat over here. And I'm kind of like sitting there and I'm like thinking, yeah, maybe we need to up our game a little bit, actually, and start getting some of the local guys to do more presentations and getting themselves into that kind of, sphere of people who are going off, to the conferences and doing the talks themselves, And we have grown one Java developer, Java champion out of Ireland, and that was Rafael De Niro. We gave him his first talks here, and he eventually became Java champion. So we do have a little bit of track record there, but we should be doing more as well.
Yeah, I think that's one of the challenges of JUGs, is attracting new people, because we found that, like in Belgium, it's pretty difficult for people that they dare to stand up and say, yeah, I want to try this. Although that the audience of a JUG is very friendly, they just come to learn, and they're not there to hammer on the speaker if the talk is not going as expected. So it is a very friendly environment to learn to speak and to try out a new talk. So yeah, it's definitely a great opportunity if people are interested to become a speaker, if they can do that, for instance, at the Dublin JUG.
Yeah. Do you know, I always find the challenge though is in terms of, aren't we our own worst enemies when it comes to doing things like that? You know, kind of putting yourself up on that pedestal, and you know, you think that it's like we're going to shoot you or something, you know. But you're right. I mean, the community is very friendly, and yeah, I just wish more people would take that you know, that opportunity to use a small user group as a, you know, a launch pad into bigger and better things when it comes to doing talks internationally.
And it's an ideal place to do a tryout for a new talk.
Completely, absolutely, yeah. That's gonna, you know, something that's gonna be my thing in 2024.
Tryouts.
I'm gonna beat people up until they come and do talks. Local people.
Yeah, great. And then one day they will become DevOps speakers or any other conference. How big is the community in Dublin, the Java community?
Well, crikey, that's a really hard question to answer. We had about 4,000 people subscribed to our mailing list, and we have a little team running as well in the background there, Maria and her team, and they're constantly doing outreach to people who are based in Ireland, who are using Java in some shape or form. But of course, Ireland has a lot of international companies in Dublin. Actually, quite a lot of them in Dublin. You know, you've the big US multinationals and lots of different tech companies and everything, you know. AOL, oh, sorry, not AOL. What I can't even think now what they're called these days. Actually, changed hands so many times. But you know, I mean, they employ MasterCard are here, Workday. You know, they're all big Java users. Of course, like you have Oracle here in Dublin as well. There's lots and lots of them. But what happens then is that you get a lot of Java developers. You know, foreign nationals will come into Dublin to work for these companies. During COVID, we found that a lot of them left again, you know, because Dublin's a very expensive place to live, especially in the city centre. Transport's not amazing. So you kind of, you know, if you're working here as a developer, you kind of have to live in the city centre. You could be paying 2,000-3,000 euros for an apartment per month. Or 600 or 700 euros to rent a bedroom. You know, it's a lot. So when COVID came along, and it wasn't until after COVID came along that we really discovered the depth of this. But when COVID came along, a lot of guys left. Okay, because after all, Frank, why would you stay here in Dublin, pay that amount of money when COVID was dictating to companies you could work remotely? They had no choice to say to people, you can work remotely. You know, it was the way it was going to be. So we knew that people had left, but what we didn't really understand was how many people left. And that only became apparent to us when we started our first event after COVID. And that would have been about beginning of 22, I think it was, when we started our in-person events again. And we started them with J Champions Conference. So what we did with that is we invited some of their Java champions who were going to be doing talks for the J Champions Conf to come to Dublin for 4 days, and you know, each night would have a different speaker. And we were thinking, this is going to be amazing. You know, this was groundbreaking stuff. I don't think anybody else had done it at the time. I thought this is going to be amazing. All our community of developers, that we would have between 50 and 100 people coming along to our events pre-COVID. They're going to love it. They're going to come here in their droves. We're going to have a massive party and everything's going to be amazing. And do you know how many people came along to that first event?
Doesn't sound like a lot.
One. One person. And I was like, hey, what's going on here? This is very strange. So we kind of discovered then that actually a lot of these guys they shipped out. They checked out the country and off they went. And during COVID, we never really did any online events. Because we figured that like when everybody else is doing it, so we'll just tell our members that this is happening in London or this is happening in Amsterdam or wherever it might have been, and they can tune in there and everything. So we didn't really. I think we maybe did two. We had Ben Evans. We did one with Ben Evans, and we did one with we actually did a really, really cool one actually with again, I just can't think of a name off the top of my head, but she worked for Oracle in developer relations in the US, and it was really cool actually because she was a Grammy award-winning jazz vocalist, and jazz is a big thing for me. It's my trumpet is jazz. I do jazz vocals myself, and we got her playing the ukulele live stream, and it was really, really cool actually. But anyway, I digress. Going back to the thing, we said like, well, look, we have this big mailing list of people. We can't just throw it away just because people have moved away. So it was actually after COVID that we started doing virtual events, and it's just basically we just do a hybrid live stream of the events that we're actually hosting in person, and that's proved to be quite interesting and quite a good thing as well. The little bit of a challenge there is about saying, well, we've also got a lot of local developers who could come in person who are choosing not to because it is live streamed. So I got to think of a way of getting over that. I got to try and make our events a little bit more like I must go type of events. But you can understand it as well. I mean, people are still working from home, and before it used to be, oh, look, I'll finish work at 5. I'll go and have a little bite to eat or a couple of beers with my colleagues, and then I'll go to the Dublin Java user group. But of course, now it's more about, I have to leave. I have to get dressed. They're probably still in their pajamas from the night before. I had to get dressed. I had to get the train in or the bus in or something like this. And, it's more hassle for people, even though it might only be like 30 minutes away for them, But we figure that out.
It's a battle for all the jugs, I hear. So restarting after COVID, indeed, is getting the people who left from work and came to the jug, now get them out of their house to the jug, because they stay working from home, a lot of them. Yeah, you answered my question about the impact of COVID. It was massive also for you. Are you back to normal a bit? Do you have, how many visitors do you have or attendees?
The last few months have been really, really good. So we've kind of like built our numbers up from that solitary number one person 2 years ago to, having 20, 30 people coming along to them. But the last 2 or 3 events have been really, really good because we had Venkat. Well, obviously, like who wouldn't want to come and see Venkat and meet Venkat in person? So that was pretty much sold out, and we had loads and loads of people on the live stream as well. Gerrit was over, which was reasonably well attended. Quite a few people on the live stream again with that one. And then our last event, which was a couple of weeks ago, I was very surprised about it actually. Kevin Dubois from Red Hat, we had him in. That was only second in terms of numbers to Venkat. He's not Java champion, but it seemed to me that people really, really want to know about what he had to talk about, which was to do with Quarkus, Kubernetes, performance, and putting all those things together to make your Java apps much faster online and everything, and it was a really, really good event. People got a lot of value from it.
Yeah, he's an amazing speaker.
And a lot of insurance companies at that event.
And we see which are the markets for this kind of.
You can have that lead for nothing.
What are your plans for next year? So you already mentioned attract new speakers, local speakers. And about sessions, you have one per month?
During 2023, I think we ran 10 or 11 events. actually our busiest ones were before COVID. We were, I think, one year we ran 22 in 1 year. So that would have been 2018, I think it was. 2019 we ran 18, and then COVID. Last year we ran 10. Next year, I think our numbers will go up next year because, for two reasons. Number one, we kick off in January with the J Champions conference, getting a few of their speakers into Dublin at the end of January. I've also got people knocking my door down to come and do talks here in Dublin at the moment from, various companies, Azul. And quite a few. Red Hat want to come. Red Hat are always wanting to come into the Dublin Java user group because of the community and everything, Because Red Hat have a big office here as well in Dublin. But yeah, just to try and maintain that level of top-notch people, speakers who are usually going on the conference scene. That's really important to us, as I say, so that we can bring them guys. That we can bring the mountain to Muhammad, basically, and then try and do a little bit more with the local community. Try and get some of those guys just doing little lightning talks and things like this,
Something not really related to Java. I saw a message from you on LinkedIn. I think it was about visiting conferences, and you have a very nice rule. Don't talk to anyone you know. It's a wasted opportunity to meet new people.
Did you spot that? Did you?
I spotted that somewhere last week, I think.
Yeah.
That's a very nice rule also for jugs and conferences is don't speak to the people you already know.
Yeah. Well, it's strange, actually, because somebody told me that many years ago, actually, and I've always stuck with it, that, when you go to an event, and actually it's like one of our sponsors is a guy called Gerrit Nolan from Stack & Co. He's a recruitment company that mainly does Java developers, and he's and I always saying to him, it's like, Gerrit, don't talk to anybody in my events that you already know. It's a wasted opportunity for you, And he's like, oh, not that one again, But someone once told me that, and it's always stood by me that we only have a finite amount of time in anything in our lives, in anything we do. So we have to maximize that opportunity. And if you spend 20 minutes talking to somebody that you already know, and it's just like, hey, how are you doing? And how's the wife? How's the children? Have you been? Do you know what I mean? It's 20 minutes gone. You'd be far better off speaking to somebody who you've never met before, introducing yourself, and opening up that conversation for a later time.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be like, hey, let's have a Zoom call. Let's have a phone call. Let's get in touch with me if you're in Dublin. This type of thing. And it stood well. It stood well with me in terms of bringing speakers into the Dublin Java user group. I think speakers that have been here tend to recommend us to other speakers, which is a good thing because we always make it a fun occasion and we always look after the guys when they come here, unless you fall out with me before the event.
That one name that you're not going to mention.
I didn't do anything with him. Sorry, I've lost my train of thought now. Oh yes, and just introduce yourself and just let people know that you're there and that you're open for having conversations. It doesn't have to be about like I'm looking for something from you or anything like that. It's just, hey,
Okay, that's a very nice life lesson to end this podcast. Unless you have something else more to share.
I wanted with you, Frank.
Yeah, we have a lot of time. We can go on for hours, I guess. What's another message you want to share or an idea you want to share with the listeners?
Oh, I've said a lot today, actually, but I think if what I would say, actually, is if there's anybody out there who is thinking about opening up a Java user group in their area, don't. No, if you're thinking about it, do it. Just meetup.com, get in there, do it. Ring me up, reach out to me if you need any help. I'm happy to share experience with you.
I think that goes for all the organizers. If
Yeah.
you have a jug nearby, visit it, talk to the organizers, learn how they do it, and I'm sure you will get it started yourself too.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I should say as well actually is that as well as the Dublin Java user group, we also run what we call the West Midlands Java user group, which is actually based in Birmingham. So it's like the Birmingham Java user group. And there's a couple of other user groups in Ireland, which is one up in Belfast, one down in Cork. And, you know, quite often what we do with speakers is we might do a little tour with them. I've tended to do something in Dublin, something in Birmingham, and then also speak to the guys in Manchester, see if they've got a little slot. Or maybe there was a guy down in Bristol as well, but I don't know whether or not that group's still going or not. I've never managed to get hold of him since COVID. Actually, we try and have a little, try and organise little tours for speakers when they're coming to this part of the world as well. And it makes sense, really, if you're coming from Europe or the US and stuff like this, you kind of want to maximise that, right? So yeah, it just does that. So yeah, I think that's about it.
Yeah, which is really great. There was a fun session. Hoping to visit Ireland myself too one day. as an attendee of your jug, maybe as a speaker, we'll see about that.
You mentioned something actually. We had Holly Cummins in here, and there was Kevin Dubois turned up, Tom Cools turned up, and somebody else I think showed up as well actually, and it was just like completely random. Tom Cools happened to be in Dublin with his partner having a weekend away or something. I'm not sure that the partner was very happy that he suddenly disappeared to a Java user group meetup when he was supposed to be spending time with his family and everything. But there you go.
That's how I know it. Yes.
Yeah, and of course that's where I met Kevin, and I said to Kevin, it's like if you're thinking about coming back to Dublin at any time, reach out to me, and he did. He stuck with it, and he did, and as I say, we had him in here a couple of weeks ago.
Indeed. Yeah, I've seen your calendar, and in the past events, I will also add them to the show notes that people can have a look at who were the speakers at your event and then also in the next events. So
on the website.
On the website, I will add the website.
Yeah. If you look, I mean, there's years worth of abstracts and things like this, and I'm sure there's technology in there that's just like when don't use that anymore. But at the time it was cutting edge stuff.
But things evolve very fast.
yeah, absolutely. And we are, as I mentioned to you earlier, Frank, we've been doing a lot of live streaming, and of course, like the live stream, we've recorded it and we've got a big back catalogue actually waiting to get edited. Probably going to be a job over Christmas or something like this, But there's heaps and heaps of stuff that needs editing and putting online and everything, I better do that before it becomes outdated, actually, come to think of it, But yeah, there we go.
Maybe this is a call out to a volunteer who wants to help you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Become part of the Dublin JUG. Okay. Yeah. Thanks a lot for this talk. Thanks a lot for being a guest of this podcast.
Yeah, and thank you very much, Frank. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and to all the listeners. I hope you had a great 2023, and I hope you have a fabulous holiday season, and you go absolutely out of the park in 2024.
Great message. Thank you.
Au revoir.
Give me a Foo, give me a J, give me the friends of OpenJDK.